Imagine waiting for your best friend and ending up in a police interrogation just because someone thought you looked suspicious. A warm Saturday breeze drifted through the manicured streets of Brookfield Heights, Indiana. The kind of neighborhood where every lawn was perfectly edged, where driveways gleamed from fresh power washing, and where the silence was only broken by the distant hum of a leaf blower or a neighbor's small talk. It was a place designed to feel safe. But safe for who? 16-year-old Amira Sullivan stood outside a towering red brick house, her phone in one hand, her other adjusting the strap of her backpack. She glanced at the front door and back at her phone, waiting for a reply to her text. Her best friend, Sophie Reynolds, had told her to come over after lunch. But now, nothing. No answer at the door, no response to her messages, just silence. A deep sigh left her lips. She knew this routine too well. Sophie probably had her music blasting, lost in one of her 10-minute skincare routines. Across the street, behind pristine white curtains, Linda Patterson peered out the window. Linda wasn't one to jump to conclusions. At least that's what she told herself. But she had been watching for the last 5 minutes, and this girl, she didn't belong here. The hoodie, the sneakers, the way she stood outside without walking in, something about it felt off. Her fingers hovered over her phone. She bit her lip. Maybe she was overreacting. Then Amira glanced around, shifting her weight from one foot to the other. Linda's stomach tightened. That was it. Suspicious behavior. She grabbed her phone and dialed. 911, what's your emergency? Yes. Hi, she whispered, peeking through the curtains again. There's someone standing outside my neighbor's house. I don't recognize her. Okay, ma'am. Is the person attempting to enter the home? Well, no, not yet, but she's been out there for a while. A pause. Ma'am, what exactly is the suspicious activity? Linda frowned. She didn't like the tone. It sounded like the dispatcher was questioning her now. I don't know. She's just standing there. It looks weird. I think she's waiting for someone, but it just doesn't feel right. Another pause. Then the dispatcher sighed. We'll send an officer to check it out. Linda exhaled, tension leaving her shoulders. She wasn't being paranoid. She was being cautious. Across the street, Amira checked her phone again. Still nothing. She groaned, shifting her weight again. Maybe she should just call Sophie. But before she could, the sharp glare of red and blue lights bounced off the houses. A police cruiser rolled down the street, slowing to a stop right in front of her. Her heart sank. The door opened. A man in uniform stepped out. Tall, heavy-set, with a stiff posture that screamed authority. Officer Rick Delaney. He adjusted his belt, eyes locked on her. Hey, he called out. You live around here? But Amira had been through this before. Her pulse quickened, but she forced herself to stay calm. No, she answered slowly. I'm waiting for my friend. She lives here. Linda had stepped outside now, arms crossed over her chest. She's been standing here for a while, she added, as if that meant something. Delaney's eyes narrowed. What's your friend's name? Amira swallowed. This was happening. Again. She shifted her phone in her hand. Just stay calm, stay polite, stay safe. But the way Delaney was looking at her, the way Linda's presence only made things worse, Amira knew. This wasn't going to be that easy. And just like that, the situation had already spiraled. Amira inhaled slowly, her fingers tightening around her phone. She had done nothing wrong. She was just waiting. But Officer Delaney's stance told her that wasn't how he saw it. She lifted her chin, keeping her voice even. Her name is Sophie Reynolds. Delaney nodded once, but didn't reach for his radio. Instead, he took a step closer. And what's your name? Amira. Amira what? Her throat felt dry. Sullivan. Delaney gave a slow nod, as if letting the name roll around in his head, deciding whether or not it belonged in a neighborhood like this. Linda took a step forward. She was just standing there, looking around. Amira turned to her, brows knitting together. Yeah, because I was waiting for my friend. Linda pressed her lips together. She didn't like the tone. You have to understand, she said carefully. It just looked suspicious. Amira let out a short, humorless laugh. Suspicious how? Delaney's hand hovered near his belt. All right, he cut in. No need for an attitude. Her eyes flicked to his holster. No sudden movements, no eye rolls, no deep sighs. That's what her mother always told her. Her heartbeat quickened. I'm just answering your questions. The air felt heavier now. Neighbors had started to peek through their windows, some even stepping onto their porches. The spectacle was growing, feeding into itself, making it real. Linda glanced around, suddenly aware that she was no longer just a concerned citizen. She was involved, and people were watching. Officer Delaney sighed and grabbed his radio. Dispatch, I need a unit at... But before he could finish, the house door finally swung open. Sophie stood there, squinting at the flashing lights. Her blonde hair was tied up in a messy bun, her oversized sweatshirt hanging off one shoulder. Amira? Her voice was groggy, like she'd just woken up. What's going on? Relief flooded Amira's chest. Finally. But Delaney wasn't finished. He turned to Sophie. You live here? Sophie blinked, confused. Yeah? You know this girl? Her eyes darted to Amira, then to Linda, then back to the officer. She's my best friend. Linda's mouth parted slightly, as if the math wasn't mathing. Sophie stepped onto the porch, arms crossing over her chest. Why are the cops even here? Linda shifted uncomfortably. I didn't know she was your friend. Amira scoffed, shaking her head. Sophie's expression hardened. You called the cops on Amira? Seriously? Delaney exhaled, rubbing a hand over his chin. This wasn't looking good. He could feel it shifting, the power, the perception. He needed to regain control. I was just responding to a call, he said. We have procedures to follow. Sophie threw up her hands. Procedures? For what? Standing outside my house. Amira had never been so grateful for her friend. Linda was shrinking now, her confidence cracking under the weight of the attention, the murmurs from the other houses, the stares from neighbors who had stepped onto their lawns. She glanced at Officer Delaney, waiting for him to take over, to say something that would make this less humiliating. But he just stood there, jaw clenched, fingers twitching. Because that was the moment the black SUV pulled up. The tires rolled to a smooth stop. The door opened. And out stepped Dr. Olivia Sullivan, tall, poised, unshaken. Her black suit was crisp, heels clicking against the pavement as she approached. Her presence alone sent a ripple through the scene. She didn't even glance at Linda. She didn't acknowledge the neighbors. Her focus was solely on one person, Officer Delaney. And when she reached into her blazer and pulled out her badge, the air around them shifted. Director of the FBI. Silence. Linda's throat bobbed. Delaney's shoulders tensed. Amira let out a breath she didn't even realize she had been holding. And just like that, the entire game had changed. Officer Delaney's jaw tightened as he stared at the badge in Olivia Sullivan's hand. The gleaming gold seal, the bold Federal Bureau of Investigation stamped across the leather. This wasn't just some random government employee. This was his worst-case scenario. Linda, standing a few feet away, felt her stomach drop. She had been expecting Amira's mom, not this. Dr. Sullivan slipped the badge back into her pocket, her expression unreadable. She let the silence stretch, let the weight of the moment settle on everyone standing there. Then, finally, she spoke. "Is there a reason," she asked, her voice level, "that my daughter is being questioned for standing outside her friend's house?" Delaney's mouth opened, then closed. He wasn't used to being on the defensive, not with civilians. Sophie jumped in before he could speak. "Yeah, same question." Dr. Sullivan barely looked at her, but gave the briefest nod of acknowledgement. Delaney straightened his posture, forcing his voice to stay firm. "We received a call about a suspicious person in the area." Dr. Sullivan let out a short breath through her nose. "Suspicious how?" Linda shifted on her feet, suddenly feeling very small. Delaney took a step back, glancing toward his cruiser like he was ready to leave. But Olivia wasn't done. "You do realize how this looks, don't you?" she continued. "A teenage girl standing in front of a house, minding her business. And this is the response?" "I was just following protocol." His voice wasn't as confident now. Olivia's head tilted. "Really? Tell me, Officer Delaney, when's the last time you were called to check on a white teenager for standing outside a house in this neighborhood?" Silence. Linda took a breath, grasping for control. I didn't mean any harm, I wasn't sure what was going on, and I thought..." "You thought my daughter didn't belong here." Olivia's words were sharp, cutting through whatever excuse Linda had been forming. Linda's face turned red. "No, that's not what I meant." "Then what did you mean?" Linda blinked rapidly, looking to Delaney for help. But he wasn't looking at her anymore. He was looking at the neighbors, the people standing on porches, some recording on their phones. The officer cleared his throat. "Listen, we can all agree this was a misunderstanding." "A misunderstanding that could have escalated," Olivia shot back. "You're an officer. You know how these situations escalate." Delaney's nostrils flared, but he said nothing. "I want your name," Olivia continued, "and your badge number." His spine stiffened. "Ma'am, I'm not asking." Delaney glanced toward the growing audience again, jaw clenching. He knew when a battle was lost. With a sharp exhale, he rattled off his badge number. Olivia nodded, pulling out her phone and typing it in. Linda felt like the ground beneath her was crumbling. This wasn't supposed to happen. This was supposed to be a quiet, casual intervention. A simple, "We were just being cautious." But it wasn't simple anymore. Olivia turned her attention to Linda now. "And you?" Linda flinched. "I want you to think about what just happened here. Really think about it. What made you call the police instead of walking outside and simply asking my daughter who she was waiting for?" Linda's mouth opened, but she didn't have an answer, because the truth was ugly, and ugly truths were hard to say out loud. "Dr. Sullivan," Delaney started, but Olivia raised a hand. "We're done here." She turned, wrapping an arm around Amira's shoulder and guiding her toward the SUV. Sophie watched, arms crossed. "I can't believe this." She turned to Linda, shaking her head. "Actually, no. I can believe it." Linda's stomach twisted. Delaney exhaled through his nose, then gave Linda one last look. Not of sympathy, not of reassurance, just annoyance. Then he turned, walked to his cruiser, and drove away. And just like that, the street was silent again. The street felt different now. The flashing lights were gone, the onlookers had started retreating into their homes, but the weight of what had just happened still hung in the air. Amira sat stiffly in the passenger seat of her mother's SUV, fingers locked together in her lap. She could still feel the officer's stare, still hear Linda's defensive tone, trying to explain away what had no justification. Dr. Olivia Sullivan shut the driver's side door, exhaling through her nose. She didn't turn the engine on. Not yet. Instead, she sat there in silence, gripping the steering wheel, eyes focused straight ahead. Amira swallowed. "Mum, are you okay?" Olivia interrupted, voice firm but not unkind. Amira hesitated, then gave a small nod. "I mean, yeah, I guess." Olivia finally turned to look at her daughter. "I don't need a guess." Amira let out a sharp breath. I knew something like this would happen eventually. I mean, I've read about it. We've talked about it. But knowing it and feeling it," she exhaled. "That's different." Olivia's expression softened, but only slightly. "You handled yourself well." "Did I?" Amira let out a bitter laugh. "Because all I did was stand there while some random woman acted like I was a criminal for existing." Her mother's fingers drummed against the wheel. She wanted to tell Amira something comforting. She wanted to say that this was a one-time thing, that it wouldn't happen again. But that would be a lie. And Olivia Sullivan didn't lie. Instead, she leaned back slightly, studying her daughter. "What do you want to do?" Amira frowned. "What do you mean?" "I mean, do you want to file a formal complaint against that officer? Do you want me to personally make sure that woman understands exactly what she just did? Or do you want to let it go?" Amira blinked. I don't know." "You don't have to decide now," Olivia said. "But I need you to understand something." She turned fully in her seat, eyes locked onto her daughter's. "These things happen because people assume. They assume based on fear, on ignorance, on stereotypes. And sometimes," she paused, voice steady, "sometimes people like that officer, people like her, they don't even realize the weight of their actions until it's too late." Amira clenched her fists. "But they never learn, do they?" A sad smile tugged at the corner of Olivia's lips. "Some don't." Amira swallowed, staring out the window toward Linda's house. The curtains had been drawn shut, as if hiding from the reality of what had just happened. Then suddenly, the front door opened. Linda stepped outside, eyes flicking toward the SUV. She hesitated, as if debating whether to come closer. Amira's pulse quickened. But before she could say anything, Olivia was already watching, waiting. And just like that, the real reckoning was about to begin. Linda hesitated at the edge of her porch, eyes flicking between the black SUV and the ground beneath her feet. The weight of what had just unfolded was finally sinking in. She had expected a simple mistake, a misunderstanding that would be brushed off with an awkward apology and a polite, "Let's move on." But this was humiliation. And yet she had forced herself to step outside. Her hands trembled slightly as she made her way toward the car. Olivia and Amira watched her approach, their expressions unreadable. Linda cleared her throat. I just wanted to say..." She swallowed, struggling to find the right words, the acceptable words. Amira folded her arms, waiting. Olivia didn't move. Linda exhaled sharply, shifting on her feet. I didn't mean for things to go that far. I was just being cautious. You have to understand that." Silence. Amira stared at her, eyebrows raised. "Cautious of what?" Linda opened her mouth, then closed it. There it was, the question she couldn't answer. Olivia tilted her head slightly. "If my daughter had looked different, if she had blonde hair, blue eyes, wearing the exact same clothes, standing in the exact same spot, would you have made that call?" Linda flinched. "That's not fair." "It's not fair," Olivia repeated, her tone calm, almost amused. Linda's hands balled into fists at her sides. "Look, I know this looks bad, but I wasn't trying to be racist. Intent doesn't erase impact." Olivia's voice was sharp now, cutting through the air. You thought my daughter didn't belong here, and instead of just asking her who she was waiting for, you called the police. Linda's cheeks burned. I made a mistake. Amira scoffed, shaking her head. Yeah, no kidding. Linda turned to her, eyes pleading now. I swear, I wasn't trying to hurt you. Amira's chest tightened. Because that's always what they said, wasn't it? I didn't mean to. It was a misunderstanding. I was just trying to do the right thing. But Linda had made a choice. And that choice had consequences. Olivia exhaled, shaking her head. This is bigger than you, Linda. Bigger than me. My daughter, our kids, shouldn't have to grow up navigating these situations just to stay safe. Linda looked down, shoulders slumping. I understand. No, Amira said, voice firm. You don't. Linda's eyes snapped up. Amira's hands curled into fists. You get to go back inside your house and tell yourself you learned something today. You get to move on. But me, I don't get to move on. Her voice shook, but she pushed through. I get to wonder if this will happen again next week, next year. I get to have that moment of panic every time a cop car slows down near me. You don't. Linda's throat bobbed, and for the first time all day, she had nothing to say. Olivia started the engine. Come on, Amira. Amira stared at Linda for one last moment. Then, without another word, she turned away and got into the car. As the SUV pulled away, Linda remained standing there, the weight of her mistake pressing down on her shoulders. And for the first time she had to sit with it. The ride home was quiet. Not awkward, just heavy. Amira stared out the window, watching the houses blur past. She knew that by tomorrow, Linda would tell herself a version of the story that made her feel less guilty. That she wasn't really the villain. That she had just been looking out for the neighborhood. But Amira wasn't going to waste energy worrying about Linda. She turned to her mum. Are you going to do anything about the officer? Olivia kept her eyes on the road. You think I should? Amira thought about the way he had looked at her, the way his hand had hovered near his belt, the way he didn't even question Linda's call, just assumed she was right. Yeah, she said. I do. Her mother nodded, as if she had already made up her mind. Then I will. Amira exhaled, pressing her forehead against the window. Mum? Yes? Does it ever change? Olivia's grip on the wheel tightened. Then after a pause, not overnight. Amira swallowed. But people like you. Olivia continued. You keep pushing, you keep calling things out, and eventually, she glanced at her daughter. It does. Amira didn't answer. She just let the words sit. Because change wasn't fast. It wasn't easy. But maybe, just maybe, today had made a difference. Maybe next time Linda wouldn't make that call. Maybe next time an officer would ask questions first. Maybe next time someone else wouldn't have to go through this. Maybe. But for now, Amira just closed her eyes and let herself breathe. If this story made you think, share it. These situations happen every day, and conversations like this matter. We all have a role in making sure they stop. Let's do better.